Moving on to our second topic now, which is corruption. Connecticut's unfortunate nickname in some circles is Corrupticate. Just recently, a former congressional candidate pleaded guilty to making secret campaign payments to former Governor John Rowland, who was indicted Thursday on federal charges. A campaign finance scandal also ended the former House Speaker's run for Congress, and a federal probe is underway in the Republican caucus at the state capitol. What would you do to clean up Connecticut politics?
First, you lead by example. I spent 15 years in the state Senate fighting corruption. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Republican or Democrat. When John Rowland was governor, I called on him to step down because we could not have a governor who engaged in illegal activity. When Senator Ernie Newton, a Democrat, engaged in illegal activity, I similarly called for him to step down. The fact of the matter is 99% of the people who serve in public office are good people, but there are those who break the law, and that cannot be tolerated. It's the reason why so many people feel disaffected by their government. It's the reason why so many people don't vote and participate, because they see corruption and it disgraces all of our system. It's wrong. I've spent a career standing up for it. It's why for the past 8 years I've fought for an Inspector General's office to clean up state government. We need that in our state, and I will fight for it as governor.
Ms. Dean.
Yes, I agree with John McKinney on this. I think that it does require strong leadership. And just in my campaign so far, there have been people misrepresenting that they have a role in my campaign, that they are in charge of various things, and I don't even know who these people are. I've taken them on I went to the police about one person. I went on my Facebook page in a very public way and said, Huckster alert. Sometimes the public stocks are the best way of reining in people. It's the cheapest and most effective and fastest way. But I've spent a career not being perfect, but trying to do things right. And I believe that Connecticut should be trying to do things right. I think we need to teach our children to do things right. And until we, as a people, and I said this, I'm not focusing blame on our elected leaders because they represent our values. We represent people who represent our values. We elect people who represent our values. We need to be different people if we're going to elect people who are different from the people we keep electing. If they spend too much, it's because we spend too much. If they lie too much, it's because we lie too much or we tolerate lying too much in our own families. If they try to appease us and they look at polls to be popular, it's because that's what we do in raising our families.
Thank you.
We need to do what's difficult and what's right.
Mr. Loretti.
If you look at what's transpired in Connecticut, and particularly over the last several years, a governor went to jail, state legislators went to jail, mayors have gone to jail, local officials have gone to jail. I think that to a good extent the system has worked. I'm not sure that you can legislate behavior as some people would like to think. Again, it goes back to our behavior and what our standards are for society and how we've digressed in some regards. But I think that we, like has already been said, have to remain diligent in our pursuit of corrupt activities. And we as individuals have to lead by example.
Mr. Visconti.
Yes, I think the Hartford Courant nailed it with Governor Malloy and the private emails that are going around where state officials and people that work for Governor Malloy are using private emails to circumvent state freedom of information laws. We need to look at the current governor, how he has undercut and weakened the FOI laws and the Ethics Commission and everything he has done to set the stage for more corruption that we don't know about yet. We'll be reading about it in the current, I'm sure in the future. I call on Governor Malloy right now to strengthen these laws and back away from allowing the people to know what's going on, and get your commissioners and the people, I won't mention names here on TV, that are using their private emails to circumvent freedom of information laws today, Governor.
Mr. Boughton.
You know, throughout my career, I got into public service because of the service piece of public. I think we all have to recognize that the reason that elected officials do what they do is hopefully for the right reasons. That is to go out and serve the public and deliver excellent services in whatever job that you take. At the end of the day, we have to take a step back, and when we look at these candidates that are running and look at what motivates them and how their motivations are formed together to better understand what they're going to do once they're in office. I will tell you right now that I think in this current administration it is ripe for abuse. When you look at some of the investigations going on in the in the city treasurer's office in Hartford, where this governor is giving out checks after checks to businesses to move from one town to another, picking winners and losers, when certain key individuals that are close to the governor get grants that they probably shouldn't get, you need to be very afraid. because unfortunately, I think there's going to be more of these investigations, more of these bad headlines coming out over the next several years once we start uncovering what's actually going on in our state government.
All right, you'll now have 30 seconds for a rebuttal, beginning with Mr. McKinney.
For the last 3 years, I've fought against Governor Malloy as he's weakened the independence of our freedom of information laws, of our campaign finance laws. And we've seen Governor Malloy and the Democrats raise millions of dollars from state contractors, people who are getting money from you, the taxpayers, and turning around and giving it to the governor for his reelection. That's wrong. As governor, I'll clean up that system, and I won't take a penny from state contractors into our campaign.
Ms. Dean.
Yeah, I mean, the people of Connecticut are just done. They've had enough. I mean, they keep saying, I hear them say, our government spends too much, it borrows too much, it infringes on our privacy and our core rights too much. They're done, and if they're not done living here, I mean, done here in Connecticut, they're done living in Connecticut. So many productive citizens have left the state, and we're in trouble. When you have a state that is run on the basis of corruption, then the people who are honest and hardworking know the game is rigged, and they get out. And that means that the rest of those who are staying here are going to be paying the bill, and the bill is going to go up exponentially in the coming years.
Mr. Loretti.
Issues like this can only be solved, in my mind, if people take personal responsibility, and it really requires everyone involved, particularly in the governmental system. And that when things are not going as they should be, attention needs to be put on that. But again, I would go back to the fact that legislation doesn't solve all of these issues. There has to be personal responsibility on behalf of the individual and people in society as well.
Mr. Visconti.
I think when you can have $5,000 in cash put in a refrigerator at the state capitol, and that's the Republican Party, I'll call it my own, or we have Chris Donovan looking the other way while his campaign people are doing what they do with the roll your own. I think that has to tell everyone, wait a minute, right in our state capitol, what's going on? We need leadership that's going to bring in the sunshine, that's going to bring in the ethics and the freedom of information, and we need stalwarts that are going to be standing there leading the way against corruption.
Mr. Boughton.
I just give you one quick example. Look at the head of the Board of Regents right now. Donated $10,000 to the state Democratic Party and then gets appointed to a high-paying job. Now, if that is a corruption, or at least raises the issue of possibly being corrupt activity, I would certainly would be concerned about that. And the reason you get into public service is to help the public. It's not to make money. It's not to better yourself. And so it's very, very important that we have a governor that won't engage in quid pro quo activity like that.
Thank you. We are going to pause now before we get to question 3.